And he said, I'm going to tell my son to come and see you. And I'm like, yeah, tell your son, tell the neighbors. And I see him the next time we play there. And he's like very serious. And I'm like, I wonder why he's so serious. And he walks in and there's Eric Clapton.
It's the Blues Rock Show with Pete Francis.
Welcome to the Blues Rock Show. I'm Pete Francis. Today we have a very special guest. He has a brand new album coming out on April 25th called Praise the Loud. He's one of the top acts in modern blues rock right now, Anthony Gomes. Anthony, how's it going?
Oh, man, it's great. I'm hanging out with you, Pete, at Blues Rock Review headquarters. This is awesome, man.
Yeah, well, thanks for making the drive. We appreciate you coming to see us.
Yeah, man. A pleasure.
So, Anthony, obviously over the years, B.B. King has been a major influence on you. Do you remember when you first heard B.B. King?
Absolutely. So I was growing up like a lot of kids in my neighborhood in the Canadian suburbs, in the deep in the Delta, and we had a record store, and I'd have to take a couple buses in the subway to get to this record store. And I was weaned on Jimi Hendrix and, hard rock and Van Halen and stuff on the radio, but I was gravitating towards blues-based music, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. And I thought to myself, I need to get a proper blues CD, And so I went to this record store up on the third floor. You got to take a couple escalators, then the stairs, sort of like they hide the good stuff. And I said, I'm going to buy a B.B. King CD. And for $5.99 on sale, they had Live at the Regal. And there was a sticker that said, one of the best blues albums of all time. So I thought, okay, this is a pretty good bet. I took the subway back, the 3 buses back home, and I put it on my CD player, and I instantly found home. And I found a connection. And to me, I sort of say like blues and rock obviously have a connection, but hearing the source, going back to ground zero, I understood Jimi Hendrix in a way that I hadn't understood him before. And it's sort of like eating apple pie, but you're eating it for the apple, and all the sugar and crust and all this other stuff in this apple pie, you're really digging the apples. And to have that pure sound from BB was just amazing. I felt like I was inside the house of music as opposed to in the past peering into a window. And the next day I went in and did the same thing, and I bought a Buddy Guy album, and I was hooked, and that started my journey into my love of the blues.
And B.B. King obviously became a hero for you, and
Yes.
Eventually you got to meet B.B. King, and there's a pretty interesting story there.
Yeah, so I became a huge fan of B.B. King, not only as a musician, but as an ambassador of the blues. And my parents I'm finally going to confess to my parents that I went to college just to kill time while my music career was sort of getting going.
But you went to college for music.
I studied history and English at the University of Toronto. And in my cultural history class, we had a music segment, and I was getting my master's degree because things were taking a while, so I couldn't get going with my music by my BA. So here I am taking a master's degree, and I can write a thesis on blues music. So I was like, this is the most incredible thing. And I started to dig deep into the cultural evolution of blues. Where was blues today and how did it get there? And I think in my own way, I was trying to figure how I fit into it. And in all my research, I was blown away with B.B. King and all he did to make blues inclusive to people of all nationalities, race, gender, how supportive he was. And he became a hero. But to me, he's the undisputed king. I mean, and all of those things contribute to that. And I loved his voice, and I loved the way his guitar was an extension of his singing. So there I was, writing this paper, and every Thursday there was a blues jam at a bar in Toronto, my hometown, called Chicago's. And if you were good, they'd give you a free beer for jamming. And if you were really hot, you might get 2 free beers. And when you're in college, you know that 2 free beers is the equivalent of...
It's a big deal.
Yeah. It's like $100 or something, $1 million. It's a lot of money. And man, I was hot. I was a 2-beer night. And this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, who's your favorite guitar player?" And, there's probably 10 people tied for first place. But I said, that's easy. It's B.B. King. That's just what came out. And he said, "I thought so. I'm his bus driver." And the next day I met B.B. King. I got backstage passes, front row tickets. And I saw a line of people waiting to meet BB. And he had these 2 8x10s. And the people would meet him and he'd say, "Which do you prefer?" One was a headshot, one was a full body. "Oh, I like that one." And he'd sign it. And his bus driver said, they have to lie to BB to say that's just the amount of people that want to meet you, because he would be here all night meeting everybody. He was that kind of guy. And that made an impression on me. That here's the guy that's the best, and he's the most generous, humble human being, So I wore my Sunday best, dress pants, dress shoes, snazzy vest, and I went to Office Max that day and I made business cards that said, "Anthony Gomes, professional blues guitarist." And I laugh now when I think about it, because no professional guitarist would put professional on their card. So, and I gave him my card, and and I explained.
Was he impressed?
With the card? He said, "Can I keep the card?" I'm like, well, yes.
There you
I
go.
only have 1,000 more, sure. No, but he really went out of his way to mentor me then about having a career in the blues, being a band leader. And he was giving me lessons like that I still employ today. One thing he said to me that I'll never forget, he said, "As you get better, you'll be able to hire more competent musicians. But remember that 70% of a musician you can work and get them up to 90 or 100%. But 70% of a person will always be 70% of a person." And boy, I mean, just sort of insight like that, and that he gave me on that day. And then he sort of, like a lot of people, sort of mentored our career, and we got some opening shows, and he'd always spend time and was very honest about things. And it was an amazing experience to have a friendship with somebody so important and someone that I admired so much.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about the blues community. It seems like you kind of see that more within the blues genre.
Yeah, I think because it's a people's music, it's roots music. Nobody says, "Hey, here's a quick way to make $1 million. I'm going to be a blues artist." Nobody really does that. So I think that people know that you genuinely love and have passion for this style of music, and there's a willingness to help.
You mentioned the advice from B.B. King. What's the best advice you've ever received from a musician?
Well, there's so many great nuggets. One thing somebody told me that always stuck with me is that nobody cares about your music career as much as you do. And if you don't care about it, nobody will. And because we have to wear a lot of hats, especially in an indie world. It's not only practicing your guitar or writing songs. It's
social media,
social media marketing and answering emails and all sorts of things that are less than the reason why you got into doing this. But you find the joy in doing all of those things because it enables you to do the thing you love most, and that's make music and perform for people. So.
Talked about meeting B.B. King. I understand you also have a very interesting story about meeting Eric Clapton. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, Eric Clapton. Oh my God. So we were playing it in Columbus, Ohio at the Blues Station. And there's a guy, and I think he was part owner. And the Blues Station is no longer. I think this is like the mid-2000s. And Oh, probably at that time he might have been 60 or late 50s, 60, this gentleman. And he was like, "Oh man, I love your band. I love your band." Oh, well, thank you. It's very nice to get a compliment. Thank you so much. And he said, "I'm going to tell my son to come and see you." And I'm like, "Yeah, tell your son, tell the neighbors, like everybody." And he left. And then somebody said, "Do you know who that was?" I said, "Yeah, I think he's the owner of this bar, or part owner or something." He said, "His daughter is married to Eric Clapton." And I said, "Oh, I guess that's who his son is." So he was always a very friendly guy, real friendly. And I see him the next time we play there, and he's like very serious. And I'm like, I wonder why he's so serious. And he walks in, and there's Eric Clapton right next to him. And so there was an opening act, and I'm in the bathroom, and I hear this guy on the cell phone, "Man, Clapton is here. You got to come down." And it was just nuts. So within 15 minutes, this place was beyond capacity. There wasn't really a backstage.
How big was the
place.
venue?
I'd say maybe a 300 capacity or 250, something like that. So, and there was really no proper backstage area. So it became uncomfortable, for him to be there. So he couldn't catch a show, which was disappointing, but I did get to meet him. And, what do you do when you meet somebody that you admire and they don't know you? It's like, you could write a thesis on how much their music has changed your life. So what I did was I said, "Hey man, thanks for the music." And he was great. Taller than I thought he'd be, Pete. Everybody I've met has always been shorter. And so you kind of get used to, I'm going to meet somebody and they're going to be shorter than I think they are. But no, Clapton I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" So it was cool.
Yeah, obviously Clapton, great guitar player. B.B. King, great guitar player. In your opinion, what makes a great guitar player?
I think what makes a great guitar player is there has to be some magic in their playing and something that sets them apart and they stand out from other players. And it could be technique. It could be, look at B.B. King. He's a very minimalist player. And then you have some people that have a lot of technique. I think it's just making a connection and that the people understand what you're playing and that they can feel it. And that there's some just sort of magic, I remember watching BB open, his band opened the show, and I was watching BB King, and his band was tremendous musicians. They were fantastic. Then BB got on, and he hit one note, and it was like a bolt of lightning. What makes that? I don't know. I think it's just, maybe it's something in the person that comes out in the music. But yeah, I think that just a way to communicate what you're feeling and get others to feel it is what makes a great guitar player.
Yeah. Looking at blues rock as a genre, who do you think are some of the most unsung guitar heroes?
Everybody in blues rock is.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, as I'm learning, there's, and digging deeper into other artists and listening to playlists and, there's so many great players out there and so many great artists in this genre that everybody is deserving of a shot. And it's like there's a place for 5 people, and there's hundreds of artists that are good enough to be in that slot. And sometimes it's just that you're lucky. There's a bit of luck. That being said, the harder I work in my personal career,
the luckier you get.
Yeah. And so that's been like sort of a model, like, okay, how much harder can you work? Because you are inspired by all these wonderful artists. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know who Philip Sayce or Walter Trout is. And they're wonderful players that, are as good as anybody that's picked up a blues guitar. And so, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of unsung heroes, and thanks to folks like Blues Rock Review, you're getting the word out, and people are discovering these great guitar players.
Yeah, it really is amazing how many just world-class musicians are out there that people just haven't heard. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. And here are people just creating this amazing art, and they may or may not get the chance, and so. But another great piece of advice, we were talking about this, is early on in my career, I met a gentleman who was a business manager for the Rolling Stones. And he said, I want to buy you lunch. And Pete, I was probably on Blues and Technicolor tour. I was 28, just starting out. And he gave me this great advice. He said, look, never give up. Don't give up. Build catalog. Record as many albums as you can. It will happen if you stay in the game long enough. And anybody that's watching or listening that's an artist, I believe in that. Keep doing it. Keep making art. Keep doing your thing, and don't give up. And keep playing and keep loving the music. And we've been doing this for a long time. And up until just very recently, we've been at, sort of in the same spot, slight ups and downs. But lately, things have been really growing for us. And that advice has always been in the back of my mind, like, yeah, just don't give up, just keep doing it. So there you go.
Yeah. Persistence pays.
Persistence pays. And, sometimes you will get overlooked for whatever reason. There's somebody that kind of sounds like you, or, there's a bunch of albums that are coming out that are competing with what you're doing, and you may get overlooked. But if you keep doing your thing, I think it comes back around, and I think people respect that you're really in it, that you're really committed to it.
Talking about building a catalog in today's streaming world, how important is just volume in the amount of songs that you have available on streaming platforms?
That's a really good question. Some people will say, release a single once a month, and then 12 months later you release an album. And that's sort of working within Spotify's game. Other people say, they're more album oriented. I think there's no right or wrong answer. I think whatever works for the artist is best. My belief is it should be quality. If you're just, I'm finding with some artists, it's like there's a single every month, and
that's really become a strategy now, where it is release a single every single month, and then eventually the album comes out.
Yeah,
and you've already heard pretty much everything on the album except maybe like 3 songs.
Right, and so back in the day, you would release the record, everybody would get excited, they'd not hear about it sometimes till weeks after the release, and you'd work it for years with multiple singles, or at least a year. And today it's like the day the album comes out, it's dead. Everything you've done has happened beforehand. And I understand that strategy, and I respect it, and I see a lot of people being successful doing that. But that's not our strategy. Our strategy is we want to create an album with no filler, and we want to work that album for a year or two. And it's it's old school in some ways, but it's not done out of ignorance. It's done out of, I still like the idea of an album. I still like the idea of a song being attached to something
sequence.
Bigger. Yeah. And again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever works for everybody. But I'd sooner put out 1 or 2 singles, release the album, and not see it drop off the charts in 3 weeks. I'd like it to go for a long time and get the word out about the project that way. But that's really worked for us. But the other strategies have worked for other people. And however you get there, there's we came to this interview from St. Louis to Kansas City. And, okay, you got to take Interstate 70, but we could have taken another way. I don't know, would have taken longer, but you could still end up in the same place, So, but it's definitely crazy. The different ways that you can market yourself today and the different strategies.
Going back to your earlier days, how old were you when you formed your first band?
Well, I had a high school band, and, we played band night, and we did Smoke on the Water, Heartbreaker, and Communication Breakdown. I went to a Catholic school, so Sister Celestine was our principal and head nun, and we had to audition in front of her. And in Communication Breakdown, there's Robert Plant goes, suck. And she censored that. She said, okay, boys, you cannot say that at band night. And we said, can we strike a compromise and say, squeeze my lemon? And which I think she was so naive, maybe, that she thought that was not a reference of.
So you were being clever.
We were quoting blues scripture, right? So so she let it pass, and we thought we had a win. We're like, squeeze my lemon is way nastier than suck. So we were pretty excited about it. And so there were I grew up in a school of children of immigrants. I only knew two kids that both parents were born in Canada. My dad was Portuguese, the bass player in our band. His name was Igor. He was Croatian. Our drummer was Ivan. He was Croatian as well. Our singer, was, English, so it was like we had this crazy school with all these different ethnicities. And there were a lot of Italian Canadians, children. My best friend growing up was Italian, Reno. And so there was this Italian DJ group called I Ragazzi, and they would play house music at school dances. And then there was an I Ragazzi 2, and then an I Ragazzi 3. So we called our band I Ragazzi 13 and put a skull and bat wings and flames. And then I Ragazzi 2 sued us for using their name. We had cease and desist or something. So it was pretty ironic that I Ragazzi 2 was coming after us for being I Ragazzi 13. And I think I Ragazzi means the boys.
I'm going to ask you a very subjective question.
Okay.
In your opinion, greatest guitar player of all time?
The greatest guitar player of all time, to me, if we're talking, I would say Jeff Beck to me would be the greatest guitar player of all time, alongside Jimi Hendrix. Like, to me, they're interchangeable. Jeff, to me, grew as he got older, and he expanded his technique. We never had that opportunity with Jimmy, but I think Jimmy came in and sort of wrote the rule book, and then Jeff Beck later on he just had so much taste, and he didn't necessarily play quickly but back to your question about what makes a guitar player great, and I think I could say that for a vocalist too, is they do the unexpected. With Jeff Beck, you could line up 10 of the world's greatest guitar players playing a solo, and they would all do incredible things, and they would sort of take you on a journey that's expected. With Jeff Beck, all of a sudden, something coming out of nowhere hits you in a way that nobody else would do that. And to me, Paul Rodgers does that as a vocalist. Like, I know when a lot of singers sing, let's say it's 4 lines, the money line is the 4th line. Okay. So it's, line 1, line 2, you come on with a little bit more stuff, and line 3, you back up, and line 4, bam, you knock it out. Paul Rodgers, his 3rd line will be the knockout line. So you've got 1, 2, 3rd line, and then the 4th line comes and it's like, what are you doing? I'm not expecting that. And I think that is what makes a guitar player great, or a singer great. But yeah, I mean, as far as blues rock goes, Jeff Beck and Jimi Hendrix tied for first place.
So Anthony, you're on the road a lot, touring. I imagine you've got some pretty interesting road stories from your years on the road? Any that you'd like to share?
Oh, the road stories question. Oh, Lord. I have about 100, but now that you're asking me, I'm drawing a total blank. Maybe we'll circle back to this one and I'll think about it. I mean, road stories. Yeah, you kind of think of the ones that you really can't share.
Inappropriate?
that are really inappropriate. But more so, there are a lot of funny, crazy things that have happened, but we'd sort of have to be having a beer and just relaxed, and then you'd mention something and I go, oh God, so I'm doing a really horrible job on answering this question, but maybe I can think of something.
You were in Europe recently.
Yes.
How does that compare, touring over in Europe compared to the US?
Europe is a different philosophy than America. And first of all, every audience is an amazing audience. Anybody that comes through the door that's paying $40 to see us play, we are so grateful for. And we have awesome audiences all over the world. But there are cultural differences in how audiences react. One thing about Europe that is very different is everybody stands up at a show. We play, and our audience, we have a wide range of age, but we also have older fans, and they may need to sit down. But our demographic in Europe is exactly the same. And there is not one seat to be found. Maybe, well, that's an exaggeration, maybe 4 or 5 for people with needs. They stand up. They go crazy. I mean, it's a different sort of thing. American audiences sing choruses. English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh audiences sing verses. And it's almost like they do their research and they're going to come to the show to sing the song. We have a song called "The Whiskey Made Me Do It." And they live this song with extreme passion. They sing every word. So yeah, it's cool. I love the audiences in Europe. I love our American audiences. My favorite audience is, I'm biased, is a French-Canadian audience, because I think that they're so passionate but they're listening to the music, so yeah, but we love all of our supporters, and we're so grateful.
I would say, having been to your shows, compared to the average blues rock show, I think the fans are on their feet a lot more at your shows.
Yeah, we demand this of them.
You force it out of them.
Well, so we played a show the other day, and it was a sitting show, and we got everybody standing up, and I saw one guy yawning in the middle of the show. I'm like, oh hell!
You called him out.
No, I didn't, but I was like, we got him all standing up, and he wasn't yawning. And I find that when people stand up, our shows are better. We perform better. We sell more merch at the merch table. People are having a better time. It's not convenient to stand up. I know sometimes as a audience member, boy, I sure would like to sit down. I can understand that. And, but if I'm really into a band, I can't. I went to see Paul Rogers in 2018, and he was at this little casino in Milwaukee. I drove from St. Louis to Milwaukee just to see the show, and it was so amazing. I couldn't sit down. So yeah, I want people to feel that at our show, even if they may need a little extra encouragement. So
yeah. How do you unwind away from the stage when you're not touring?
Excellent question. So when I was younger, I had no work-life balance, as you would call it. And I don't consider my profession in the music industry as work. It's a labor of love. It's a calling. But I would get off the road, and then I would do the exact same things at home, go to a blues bar, have a few cocktails, whatever, no balance. So now it's like I try to do the most un-rock star things possible. And in a way that's kind of fun because it's a very Clark Kent like, you've got this thing that you do and then you come and you wear the glasses and, I try to be as nerdy as possible at home, go for walks, go to the movies, grocery shopping, and it's exciting for me because I know it's feeding my soul to be a better artist. And when you don't do that, I know myself, I was making bad creative decisions because I was getting burnt out. I didn't have the ability to
reset.
Exactly. And then look at what I was doing in a way that was clear-headed. Because, if you eat lasagna every day, after 21 days of eating lasagna, you're like, is this any good? You know? But if you don't have it, you get a break, you're like, oh, hey, this lasagna is really good. It's the same when you're working on a song or the same in a direction. And if you get too burnt out, you may get restless and make creative decisions that are not natural to your path.
Yeah, you mentioned like getting out to the movies. Do you have any favorite movies or favorite TV shows that you're into right now?
Oh, man, I love the movies. To me, the movies is the ultimate in storytelling. And whenever I watch a movie, I try to equate it to a song. Okay, where are the power points in this movie? A good movie has a great sense of timing. A great song has a great sense of timing. I don't in the arrangement, not in how fast the song is, but when does it give you this exciting moment? When are you about to lose interest? And then this great part happens in the song. Same with the movie. I love all things nerdy. So I loved the last two Dune movies. I thought were exceptional. I'm not a big musical person, but I went to see Wicked and I thought the singing was so incredible and that they were doing it live was mind-blowing. TV shows my top three would probably be Stranger Things, Game of Thrones, and Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I love Breaking Bad.
Yeah. And, I did the Better Call Saul thing and then rewatched Breaking Bad and then rewatched Better Call Saul. And my appreciation for Saul grew as I thought, and a real good show, you can watch it again and have a different opinion of the characters.
It's a bit layered.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a form of storytelling, which is what a song is. So I love to do that with movies, music, watch an actor's timing, because I feel like I can borrow that and put it in my music or fronting or, David Lee Roth once said a raised eyebrow can communicate as much as a guitar solo. And, when you're performing, it is about timing. It is about sequencing of songs. It is about knowing when to say something serious and knowing when to lighten the mood. And a movie is really good at that. For me, at least, it's understanding, oh, yeah, okay, I see where this is going. So,
have any movies or TV shows inspired any of your songs?
No, I know Iron Maiden writes a lot of songs about movies or books. But one in particular, thinking about it, Painted Horse. There was a movie with the actor, I'm going to butcher his name, the main actor in Lord of the Rings, Victor Viggo.
Oh, Viggo.
Yeah. Sorry, Viggo. But anyway, he had this movie about a horse that I guess it was in some race in Arabia or,
Is that Hidalgo?
Hidalgo, yeah. So that movie inspired Painted Horse, where the song has different layers to it, but essentially the idea is that as an artist, you can be stronger if you embrace different musical genres and it becomes your sonic tapestry of who you are. And in the song Painted Horse, I allude to people like John Lee Hooker, Albert Collins, Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Cash. And to me, that's my painted horse. You know, we're in the race but we're the underdog. But, you know, and that movie really inspired what was already brewing in my brain for a song. But yeah.
Staying on songwriting, does it generally take you a long time to write songs, or do you find like the best songs come quickly?
A lot of times the best songs come quickly because it's a fast, inspired moment, as Billy Gibbons says, lightning in a bottle. That being said, sometimes you have this lightning in the bottle, but you're missing something. And it may take years before that thing happens. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's that missing piece. On our new album, we have a song called Electric Blues Crusade that essentially was written 20 years ago. That was an idea, and it just never worked, you know, and I put it aside. And then one day I was jamming on these riffs and I was like, whoa, this sounds like, in my brain, Electric Blues Crusade. Let's go find those lyrics and dust them off. And all of a sudden it was the right fit. That doesn't happen that frequently, but it can. And you never give up on a song. You know, I think
that song is actually, that might be my favorite song from the album.
Wow. That's amazing. So it took 20 years for that one to come around and really make its place. And it was much different, let's say, in the last year of its development. But the idea, you know, that idea was kind of inspired by 60s ideas like Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles, you know, Electric Blues Crusade, this idea of going on a journey. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this album, Praise the Loud, comes out April 25th. And a lot of the songs, listening to the lyrics, I mean, they're really inspired by your love of blues and rock.
Yes. Yeah, I felt on this album, so let's say in the last couple previous records we've done, there's been a real fun party side. The Whiskey Made Me Do It, Fur-Covered Handcuffs. And, you know, our audience loves these songs. And there's a couple of those on the new album. But I really felt, I don't know, maybe I feel like I've come into my own as an artist, or with the success that we've had recently, that I need to lobby for blues rock. And I need to say that it's okay to love rock and roll, and it's okay to love blues in the same breath. And you don't have to choose one or the other. What makes you weird and different and what makes you not fit in is cool. It's okay. And so I think there's a lot of that on that album, because it's sort of almost like a declaration of independence. You know, it's like blues rock often is like the, you know, neglected stepchild of the genre. And I think that that's just wrong. And on this album, I felt that was important to say. So yeah, a lot of the songs preach that feeling of the beautiful feeling that music gives us.
Yeah. You do have a song on this album called Netflix and Chill.
Yes.
That I wanted to ask you about. You know, one of the interesting things with music today, because we talk about, you know, it being a singles world and artists are releasing a lot of videos on YouTube. Netflix and Chill, when you're thinking about like YouTube, you're thinking about like, what's a hook? What's going to get people click, you know?
Right.
Netflix and Chill will probably get people to click. Okay. Is that something like you think about as an artist today? Because I feel like that's something that really is more, I guess, top of mind now, because you're thinking about the algorithm and what's going to drive that. And does that play into it at all? When
I arrange a song, I think of a video for every song, and you have 5 seconds to capture everybody. But all my favorite acts, and especially like producers like Mutt Lange, there's always something in the top of the song that's a hook to grab you. And it's very important, I think, to do that. Truthfully, everything we do, we try to make it the best possible and the most, in a natural way, make it engaging, you know? And you pick the songs that are your favorites. But at the end of the day, I think part of the excitement of having this conversation with you is that I have no idea what this album is, right? I've lived with it for a couple of years. I've toiled over it. I've loved it. I've hated it. I like it. I hate it. I love it. You go through this whole thing. Is it any good? Every artist does.
You've
that.
overanalyzed it to death at this point.
You've overanalyzed it to death. And, you never finish a record, you abandon it. So, it's like, okay, this is the best. But somebody with fresh ears that hasn't listened to it, will give you feedback. So, I mean, it's really curious, like Netflix and chill, maybe not, But I think it's very important to just to engage people, But so maybe I better call a record company and tell them, guys.
We're talking about social media and then artists releasing singles all the time. Do you feel pressure to basically be producing content all the time now as an artist?
You mean like on social media?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a drag because I'd rather be writing a song than doing a video of, I don't know, whatever it may be. I saw a really cool video Joanne Shaw Taylor did where there was a bunch of guitar picks in her dryer, after. And that was funny. It was creative. It was cool. I got a good chuckle about it, but I'd much rather write a song than, say, okay, boy, we got to create content and we got to feed the algorithm. But it's the world we live in, And maybe there's a little, I do feel pressure. I do feel pressure about that. But you know what I've told myself? Screw it. Forget the pressure. I'm going to make music how I want to make music. I'm going to release it how I want to release it. And I understand that there's a strategy. I've researched what the strategy is. Our label has, and we will do some things for algorithms, for creating content, short form, reels, all this stuff. But at the same time, I'm not going to forget that it's the singer and the song and the album that to me is the driving force, And I think if you start chasing algorithms too much or all these other things, I think you lose focus of what's really important. That being said, you need to strike a balance. So I think I've covered all grounds of political correctness on this answer. I think I think artists do feel a pressure. I've even talked with my manager and I'm like, I think we may have to expand our team to have somebody to assist in this because, when we're traveling and jet lagged and there's no time to do a lot of these content things. And now, that's more important, than, say, traditional media that you may have had in the past.
Staying on the social media topic, artist impersonators seem to be out of control on the internet right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many artists out there, when there's posts on Facebook, you get fake accounts like saying, hey, DM me or, asking for money and all of these things. It's like, out of control. I've heard this from so many artists and managers that it's out of control and nothing is being done about it.
Yes.
How has your experience been with this and how bad is this right now for artists?
It's the internet is the Wild West. Okay. So I grew up in a small little suburb in Canada. Okay. We never locked our doors. Then I moved to Chicago. Okay. I looked over my shoulder. I was aware of my environment. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in a small little place. I was in the big city. And, there were some good, if somebody asked me to meet him in the back alley, I wasn't going to go, right?
Right.
Well, I think the internet, the users on the internet have to be educated that if somebody is asking you to go off platform, that's danger 101. If somebody's saying, hey, hey, Bob, thanks for being such a great friend. Why don't you meet us on our secret fan page? Look, Bob, we have a Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we got Twitter X, we got YouTube, we got email. There's like 17 million ways that you can contact us legitimately. We don't have enough time to personally, personally respond to messages. I still do, not all of them, but I want to keep grounded and connected to our fans. But there's not even enough time to do that. So no artist Carlos Santana doesn't have time to go create a private page because he wants to talk to you about your shoes. Like it's not. So users, and especially older fans, have to be aware that that's the case. Also, artists are not looking for romantic involvements with their fans over the internet. I mean, it's not happening. So we've had a lot of fans that have been duped out of thousands of dollars. And some of them are romantic. Some of them are like, I'm having trouble with my management and I need to get out of my contract. I need $10,000 and I can finally release my album. Or, I'm an independent artist. I need some money to finish my album. And these people are just our fans, and most fans are such gracious, giving people that, that they give this money, and then we have people that get angry at us that say, hey, I gave your imposter $5,000, and it's like, wow, this is a strange place to be in, because I really feel for you, it's just a tough place. I mean, I think the Anthony Gomes imposters are grossing more than we are annually. It's really bad. It's getting out of control. It's hard to police. And there's misconceptions, right? Anthony, you've been hacked. No, we've not been hacked. Somebody opened up a Facebook account with the same name that I have.
And they'll use like the same profile photo. Yeah.
We haven't been hacked, but here are ways that you can see. Do they have a blue verified check mark? Not as their profile picture, but next to their name.
Yeah.
So there are ways that, and on comments, it's usually 20 to 30 minutes a day where we whack-a-mole, and we just whack these guys. But they've already lured some people away. And that's the key. If anybody's watching and you're uncertain if you're talking to the real whomever it is, the real Jimi Hendrix.
I don't think they'll be talking to the real Jimi Hendrix.
Right, yeah. But you never know, Pete. You never know.
Maybe.
But no. The one thing is going off platform. Like that is meet me on a secret page or on another page. That's the equivalent of saying, hey, let's go into a dark alley and let's talk over there. You're going to get into trouble. I don't know how you police this with the volume of stuff. And I think it's just people have to be aware that this is going on. God forbid you put our show sold out, you know what I mean, on a Facebook post or Instagram post, because then you will have hundreds of people that unfortunately can't make it to their show, but they have 4 extra tickets. I laughed when we played at Knuckleheads in Kansas City because I posted the next day, hey, thanks to everybody who came out to our sold out show at the garage. It was awesome. And people were like, hey, I have some extra tickets. Maybe in a time machine, maybe, so it's really, it's tough. It's tough. And I feel for the artists and I feel for the fans, it's just not an easy place to be in. But I think we try to inform our audience as much as possible. I try to comment on posts where fake people are posting, and our fan base is starting to get aware of it. So much so they tried to shut down my personal page, thinking that I was a scammer. Because on Facebook you have to have a personal page to have a artist page. So my personal page is basically just dormant, so I can have my artist one. But people are like, "Look at this scammer," and I'm like, "Oh, that's actually my page." But it's crazy.
Well, the scary thing too now is what they're doing with AI.
Oh yeah.
So recently, like Joe Bonamassa had posted something on social media where someone used AI to manipulate his voice and then was sending, direct messages to fans. I mean, that's crazy. Just the things now with AI, you can clone someone's voice. The video is getting better and better with AI now, where you can literally create videos, and to some people, they think it's real. I mean, every day you go on Facebook and social media now and you see AI generated photos, and there's a lot of people out there that think they're actual real photos.
Yeah. It's scary times. It absolutely is. And so in a real nerd moment, there was the Mandalorian show, and there was this big thing where Luke Skywalker came back, and you could tell his face was, sort of CGI. But the director was saying, hey, and this is a couple of years ago, he said, in 5 years, you won't be able to tell.
The CG, it's the AI is a lot better than it was when that came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's insane. So, let's, I think that, having this conversation is very important, and people being aware, and people out there, really being cautious,
So, Anthony, in the music business, streaming has obviously been the norm now for years, but it feels like physical media is making somewhat of a comeback. I mean, obviously, vinyl has been getting more popular, but I'm even seeing cassettes now. I believe on High Voltage Blues, you actually put out like a few cassettes.
Yes.
Do you see a bit of an uptick with physical media?
I feel like physical media will never go away. And maybe one way to look at physical media is it's not music, it's merch. Meaning that you can go on your phone and listen to whatever album you want. You want to go listen to Led Zeppelin 4, boom, it's on your phone. Any album, there it is. Completely Well, B.B. King, boom. You can hit it. But if you love an act and you love a band, speaking for myself, I enjoy streaming. I enjoy what it provides, but I love physical media. I want to hold that album. I want the big picture, on the vinyl album. I want the crazy splatter vinyl, and I want to put it on the turntable, and I want to, just immerse myself that way, in not a passive listening way, in an active listening way. And I want to feel that connection to an artist. And I think that the more AI takes over, the more things become less human in some ways. I think the more we are going to want that connection to a tangible physical thing, to our music being real, our music that you can touch and put on a turntable or a CD player. I still haven't given up on CDs. My favorite bands love me because I buy their CDs, I buy their albums, I stream their music. It's like, you are making the most money out of me you possibly can. But that's great. I mean, I love to support bands that I love. So, I think I do feel physical product is making a comeback, it's
almost like a nostalgia thing now too.
Yes. Yeah. And we're noticing that, people are becoming more nostalgic, but I absolutely. And I just think that as great as it is and as convenient as it is to have music on your phone, that's not enough. For me, that's not enough. I want that piece of art. I want, I want to get as much of that music as possible. And I was listening to Otis Redding when I got a turntable, a dozen years ago. And I was like, whoa, listen to the kick drum. This sounds incredible. Like, this guy's really playing the kick. Well, I didn't hear that on streaming or even as much on CD, but on the vinyl, I was really hearing that, by the way the music was coming to me. So I love to listen to music on all sorts of different formats. And I think it's really cool to be able to digest that. And I think people are catching on to it. I've even had, it used to be like a couple years ago, we'd sell CDs and they'd say, oh, I don't even have a CD player in my car. Now I've had a few people say, hey man, I put a CD player in my car.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And I love the idea too. Let's say you're in a car and you have a CD. You're not skipping. You're committed to listening to that.
Right.
And I think that there's a payoff for that.
Yeah, with streaming, I feel like I don't go back to things as much.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have that physical thing in front of you. It's not on the shelf.
Exactly. And with every album in the world to choose, it's like you asking me about good road stories, as I can't think.
Well,
of
it's like the same thing as like you're scrolling to watch a movie on Netflix, and you just like keep scrolling, and it's like you have so many options. It's like, what am I gonna pick?
What am I gonna pick? And then you get lost. And so I think that it is a convenience, and it's great when you want to hear a new album, or it's great for discovering new music. Which I've been able to do, or somebody may say, hey, check out this band. And then you go on and you're like, oh man, I really dig that. You couldn't do that, say 20 years ago. So that's the plus side. But yeah, I see people embracing different kind of media again. And that's wonderful.
Anthony, let's say you're in charge of a music festival and you get to book 3 acts. Who's on your festival?
Oh man. So you want me to name names? Is this what you want me to do?
And so they have to still be around.
Okay. Is this a
It's Anthony Gomes Fest.
Anthony Gomes Fest. Well, obviously it's got to pay well, right, to get these. So I'm getting the Rival Sons. I'm getting the Struts, and let's say Walter Trout. I'll put him in the middle. And I think that would be an exciting blues rock show. If it was blues, it might be something different. But yeah, that would be a blues rock extravaganza.
Yeah, that sounds like a good lineup. And Walter's been kind of a bit of an influence on you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like a big brother, he's just a great guy. So much to learn from him as a person and as an artist, yeah. So yeah, he's been wonderful.
Okay, let's talk about, for music festival, do you have a dream festival that you would want to play?
Man, a dream festival that I would love to play. Well, we haven't played at the Notodden Blues Festival in Norway, and I hear that that's an awesome festival. So that would be a dream to play there. Yeah, Pete, anybody who'd like to book us, it's a dream come true, man.
So if you're watching, go to anthonygomes.com.
Yes, and book us today. So yeah, one place I've always wanted to play was Royal Albert Hall. Like that's a bucket list place to play. So that would be pretty amazing. Or Red Rocks, in the United States, that would probably be a cool spot. So yeah.
So Anthony, Praise the Loud comes out April 25th. What else do you have going on? What's next for you? What are you working on?
Well, we're working on a tour to promote the record. And, we're excited to get some new music out. Really, this is our first all new release since 2020. We're just excited to take the music to the people. And our audience has been growing in terms of numbers and countries. And it's just really cool to be able to now have a new show, incorporate some new songs. And I think for the first time in a long while, I've actually been creative again. I turned that brain off to finish a record and do videos for the album and, all this stuff. And now it's sort of like, okay, that's been turned off for a year or something, or 18 months. Let's turn it on. And this is almost my favorite part of being creative, is the initial stages. You don't know where your next record's coming. There's no pressure because Praise the Loud isn't even out yet, and it's sort of like this fun time, like it's like the first day of school, what's going to happen? I wonder what the teacher's going to be like. I wonder, so in that journey of what's next, it's like the first day of school, but it's really a cool place to be. But I'm most focused on delivering Praise the Loud live and finally playing these songs. Like some of these songs will be the first time we'll play them live, I mean, so yeah, they better not suck. We better learn them and do a good job with them.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, Anthony, we really appreciate you coming to talk to us today. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Man, I'd just like to thank all the listeners of Blues Rock Review, all the viewers, for keeping this music alive and thriving. Pete, thank you for what you do. And this is just such a great genre to be a part of. And I love the mission statement of Blues Rock Review. It's so inclusive. It's Praise the Loud is really waving the flag of being unapologetically blues rock, and having some acceptance for these artists that don't fit into a tidy, neat box, and places like Blues Rock Review, man, make us feel like we're at home. And that's so important for an artist to feel like they're nurtured and supported. So I'd just like to thank everybody. Our fans are so amazing, man. Every act says we have the best fans, and they do, but we have the best fans, and they've been in our corner, and we wouldn't be where we are without them. So yeah, so I'm just so grateful. I feel like we're starting a new chapter with Praise the Loud, and it's exciting to travel down a new road.
Yeah, and what you're doing, championing the genre, is important. So thank you.
No, it's an honor and a pleasure, Pete. Thank you.
All right, this is the Blues Rock Show. He's Anthony Gomes. I'm Pete Francis. We'll see you on the next one.